It's Monday, July 2nd, 2012. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, hardware lockdown and all that bullshit.
Let's do this.
We often say this at the start of the show, but warm today.
It is warm.
But actually, even warmer yesterday.
It has not yet been so warm that I did not want it to be warmer.
Not at all. However, there was
I met a guy today, in fact.
There was a 10-minute span yesterday when we were biking up the hill in the sun with no breeze back from New Jersey, where I would have liked it to be cooler in a zone around my body for about 10 minutes.
There's I was getting a fruit juice at the juice truck today, juice cart. And
what kind of fruit juice?
I think it was pineapple, orange, banana, mango.
Ah.
And there's a guy in front of me, and a tourist walks up and says, "Where's Rockefeller Center?" And I'm like, "Right behind that fucking building." And the guy in front of me is like, "Oh, thanks," because I didn't remember where it was. And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh, it's pretty warm today." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty warm, but I'd rather have it be warmer." Like maybe 120.
I've had that same kind of conversation with a lot of strangers lately. If someone complains about the heat or says something about the heat,
yeah,
and my response is always, "I'd like it to be about 10 degrees hotter."
I'm like, I want it to be about 120, right? And the guy's like, "When was the last time you were in 120?" And I'm like, "The shower."
Nah.
And he's like, "I've been in 120. It was rough."
120
he's like,
is a little much.
But I was carrying a whole bunch of gear, and he was. I assume he was probably like in India or something because he was an Indian guy. So
racist.
I'm just saying, because India's a warm place.
120 is a bit much.
It's near the equator.
I would not terribly enjoy 120.
So I assume that's the place that he was when it was 120.
I actually prefer about 95. That's my go-to zone for heat.
I'll take 500,000 billion.
Anyway, so as you all know, as I tweeted, we got an extra second over the weekend. We had a leap second. Now, woo-hoo. I don't really want to debate the
long weekend, guys. Yeah,
the deep question, man. Why couldn't we get that leap second during PAX?
I know, right?
Anyway, so the whether or not we need to do that is up for debate because we live on Earth. We don't live anywhere else. So keeping our time
it's because
in sync with Earth and the fact that the Earth is slowing down makes sense that we have to update our calendar. But at the same time, leap seconds cause Linux to shit itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are numerous kernel bugs in Linux, and there's all sorts of different issues. But basically, if any of you out there have a Linux server, I would highly recommend at some point from today onward, reboot it. Because some crap happens. And you might think, oh, this is just tech people being alarmist. I personally witnessed such crazy things as threads being spawned, but then the kernel thought that they returned from like nanosleep before they started because the kernel was off by exactly a second from the system time in another place because it didn't handle the leap second right, and crazy bullshit happened. And I will link to you 2 examples of this because this is a real problem I actually had to deal with as a computer professional.
I heard that the problem was very much tied to Java. I noticed a lot of the fixes.
There were 2 separate sets of problems.
Java related, and I know you do Java stuff because I had no problems with my lamp stacks.
Yep. No, Java itself would have problems with this, but independently, there were some generic system things that could also go
I wonder
wrong.
if Java had the problem on Windows or Mac or something.
I don't know because Windows servers get rebooted all the time, so I wouldn't really.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on leap second, right, is if you want to keep the calendar in sync with the Earth,
which I think we need to for now.
The reason that you keep the calendar in sync with the Earth is so that the seasons line up, right, with things,
yes.
Right? So, you can say, for example, it'll always be cold in December, right, around the Christmas time. Otherwise, if we don't do that, eventually we're going to have Christmas summer situation.
Now that happened at several points in our history before
and you're
gonna
have San Diego Comic-Con is every year in July. Oh, why is it snowing? Fuck.
That's why
I guess it doesn't snow in San Diego.
That's why we kept, first we had leap years, and then the rules were every 4 years, but not every 100 years, but yes, every 400 years.
Right, so that's why we have, if we're going to keep the calendar we have and keep it in sync with the seasons, you got to leap it. But the alternative is either keep doing what we're doing or metric kind of calendar.
Yeah, you know
and
what? There
change
was a
everything.
metric calendar. You know when it? You know how many people used it?
1.
0.
You're not even the guy who invented it.
It was in France, Napoleon era.
Oh.
It was all tens. It was kind of stupid. Didn't really work.
Oh. Did you see those trucks that were delivering some sort of alcohol and had a giant Napoleon on the side?
No.
We piked right past them.
I guess I wasn't paying attention.
But there's some brand of alcohol, and the label is Napoleon. And I wonder, like, is that the alcohol that Napoleon liked to drink? Is it made by him? Is it made by,
I'm pretty sure it's
Is
simply...
it made in the place that he's from? What's the deal with it?
Where's Napoleon from?
France?
Corsica. Anyway. But, biking is neither here nor there, nor our kernel panic. So this is... Well, it didn't really a kernel panic. If it had just panicked, that would have been fine. If Linux had just crashed, it would have been cool. But the fact that instead it got into this indeterminate state where threads didn't behave right, my God. But anyway.
I'm going to Corsica. I'll see you later.
To talk about some more, to have a news bit, I had a personal experience recently. You see, almost exactly a week ago, I opened a door, and I had my cell phone in my pocket, and I bumped it against the door in my pocket. Normal bump, the kind of thing that happens all the time. But later I get to work and I pull my phone out, my instinct to look at it for something, and I notice the screen has shattered.
Wah, wah.
So I had to go. I couldn't just get it replaced at the Sprint store because that's not covered by the normal warranty, nor is my phone, new.
Mm-mm.
And I didn't want to sign another 2-year contract with Sprint because Google Glass and the new iPhone are on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sign up a 2-year contract for the privilege of paying $200 instead of $700 for the next Samsung phone that isn't as good as the phone I've got.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at my options. Basically, I found for like $100 a refurbished identical version of my phone from some guy. It was used. He refurbished it and sold it on Amazon. So I bought it and I activated it. And you know what? Right now, ice cream sandwich is reinstalling. Looks fine.
All right.
But I had to go a week without a cell phone. And it was rough.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It wasn't rough in the ways I expected. I did not feel withdrawal the way so many articles said I would, because the phone is like an extension
It's just
of my
rough
body.
in that anytime you want to look at it, you go, it's not there. It's not there.
I felt like I was missing a sense. Like I felt like one of my senses was gone. The sense of access external memory and know exactly where I am geophysically at all times. Because the day my phone broke, I had to bike home. All right, I'll bike home. I start biking. I get just far enough away from work to where it would take too long to walk back before the building was closed and nowhere near a subway station, and my rear tire exploded. I don't carry a patch kit on me or anything, so I'm like, fuck. All right, well, I'll just look up where a bike shop. Fuck. Start walking. I ask everyone I pass, hey, is there a bike shop around here?
There's one on both sides of the bridge, so...
Yeah. Which bridge?
The one that you used to get home?
Yeah, so I couldn't find one. So I found one bike shop at the base of the Williamsburg Bridge. They did not have tires in the size of my bike.
Why didn't you just get a tube? Why did you need a tire for?
Because the tire was shot. This gigantic wood screw went through it sideways. I don't even know how. So there was a chunk out of it. There was no safe way to ride on that tire. Tire was fucked. So that bike shop couldn't help me. And no one could tell me where another bike shop was. So I just kept walking north until I hit 14th Street because I knew there was a bike shop there that I knew could help me, and I got my bike fixed. And then I biked home.
I know a bike shop that's more south than 14th Street. You go to Bike Habitat, which is on Lafayette.
Yeah, I would have to find that with no phone, and apparently...
I know exactly where it is.
Now I know why people ask for directions all the time in New York, because I learned that if you ask someone in New York for directions, the majority of them, unless you're asking for subway directions, have no fucking idea.
Yep.
They don't know where anything is. You ask someone like, hey, where's, the Empire State Building? They're like,
I told you today,
know.
the guy in front of me was a New Yorker, and someone asked him, where's Rockefeller Center? And I knew where it was.
Yep.
And we were 1 block away from it.
But he didn't know.
Behind that building.
But if that person had asked, hey, how do I get to the F train? They'd be like, 1 block that way.
Maybe. The F train was actually right underneath where we were staying.
But the fact that the other day, it's Saturday, I had to bike to the beach. Again, not having my instant, always on, always perfect GPS on me, huge problem.
Well, I actually made it to the beach with a map made of paper.
I don't carry maps made of paper because my phone is so much faster than that.
It's not much faster than paper.
Yeah, I think the problem is you're on an iPhone. It takes forever.
Paper loads no matter what.
Scott, My phone loads no matter what. All of New York is cached, and the GPS is independent of my data plan. So even if I'm in airplane mode, I turn it on, it shows me exactly where I am on the map. Like within 5 seconds of turning my screen on.
5 seconds, I could do the whole map in less than 5 seconds.
Really?
Yep.
Really? All right, pull your map out. Go.
It's
1.
not on me right now.
2, 3, 4,
If
5.
I had the map, I would have been out and back in already.
I highly doubt that. Having that phone on me all the time
Here,
is...
this is what it's like if I have the map ready. Ready? Ta-da! It took 2 seconds.
I actually doubt that.
The map is out. It's folded, so the spot where you are is already facing out.
But how do you know where you are?
You take it because you look at the street sign or some shit.
All right, so you've already had to look at the street sign.
How do you know where you are in Metroid? It's like Metroid, right? You push start to bring the map up. Oh, when you push start again and the map's gone. How do I know where I am? I know I'm in fucking Norfair, all right? I don't
but what, you got to find it. What if you're biking over a big area?
I know that the elevator was 3 screens to the left because I've gone 3 screens to the right. So when I pull the map out of Norfair, I go, oh, yeah.
All right, so you already have to pull the map out. My phone already shows me exactly where I am and my cardinal direction.
Pulling the phone out is just as long as
Are you kidding? Pulling my phone out.
And you got to unlock the phone, and then you got to push the map icon.
Actually, the map's already open because I put my phone in navigation mode with the Google My Places thing. Not My Places, Google My Tracks. So whenever I'm going anywhere, my phone is always in like super GPS mode. You should try that. Oh, wait, you have an iPhone. None of that stuff works. Your maps are kind of shitty.
But my paper map is the best.
Yeah, because you have an iPhone with shitty Google Maps. If you had a Google map that worked all the time, you probably wouldn't use the paper map.
Paper map is best.
Really, Captain Luddite?
No, Captain Luddite. I'm not saying I'm not gonna have a phone. I'm saying the paper map is faster.
But the thing that I missed the most was primarily...
If the paper map was inferior, I use the best technology for any job.
Yes, and I think the best technology for that is the Android phone.
Is a map made of paper.
The Android phone. So anyway...
And your battery dies and
no,
you can't look at my paper map.
My battery's fine, actually, doing biking. A whole day of biking with GPS is fine.
Anyway, you done?
No.
Okay.
But... It was interesting. I'm trying to like put down all the like problems I ran into in my life not having this phone. And I guess I'd always kind of posited like how heavily I rely on having an always on, always available data plan with GPS and all these things. And not having it for a week validated that to a ludicrous degree. Like maybe I might have thought, oh, maybe I can get away just fine without my phone. No, I can't. That phone is so pivotal to my life that I would have to change my entire way of doing things if I were not to have a phone for an extended period of time.
And this is the person when you didn't have a smartphone. You were even against getting a phone with a camera on it, and I was like, Luddite.
Yeah, back then.
Just like when you were using Internet Explorer, and I was like, you should really use Firefox.
Scott, when I was against cameras on phones, that was when I worked in a place where if you had a camera on your phone, you weren't allowed to bring it in the building.
Well, listen, many times throughout history, I've been the one to say,
but these examples. So I wasn't allowed to bring a phone with a camera
you were
on
also,
it into my office.
You got one while you were working at that place, in fact, right? So apparently it wasn't too much of an issue. And you did not end. That was at the time you said, I quote, that was not your excuse for not needing one. Your excuse was, who needs a camera on a phone?
So
that's
Scott,
stupid.
My first cell phone didn't have a camera because of that.
They didn't exist.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Anyway, I got another phone later. I worked in a different building at that point. I could have a camera, but the pictures the camera took were so shitty. And
yet you used that camera relatively often.
Actually, that one I didn't because I had no way to get the pictures off of that phone.
I remember you getting the pictures off.
No, you're thinking of my
No, the blue phone.
I couldn't get pictures off of that.
I remember you getting pictures off of that.
I had no way to get pictures off of that. I took pictures of things. I MMS'd myself paying money, like 5 pictures that I thought were good that I happened to have taken with it. The rest I lost. My next phone was the Palm Pre. And you know what? The camera was high enough megapixel and I could just dump them to my computer that suddenly the camera was awesome. The only reason the camera wasn't awesome on the older phones is because the pictures on those cameras sucked and it was hard to get the pictures off on those old ass phones.
I just want to say, who needs tab browsing?
I wanted an always on camera forever.
Who needs a phone with a camera in it? Right? This is RIM.
Like smartphones. I wanted a smartphone from day one, but I couldn't afford one. Yeah.
Oh, Uncle Moneybags, vice president, couldn't afford the smartphone.
Yes, because I was a vice president in like 2006.
Meanwhile, there's a lot of people we know who are way poor. They got plenty of smartphones.
Okay, you realize data plans were a lot more expensive.
They're still the same
2004,
price they were.
2005.
In fact, they're more expensive now because they're giving you less for
and
the
also
same
back
amount of money.
then, a lot of phones, the GPS sucked and was useless. The maps sucked and were useless. Things were very different back then. It wasn't worth the money for the piddly benefit I get, because I realized from this experience that the primary things I use my phone for are basically looking at videos and or kind of high bandwidth data, getting emails in a push format, using Twitter, and high precision GPS stuff. Those are literally the primary things that I needed, and everything else really didn't matter.
Anyway, let's move on.
Okay.
From Luddite Rim. So check this out. So Google Plus, a lot of people, they be down on Google Plus all over the internets. And you know what? I think, I'm always the person who's just like, whatever. Everyone's always like, oh, this service is good, that one's bad. It's like, one changes. They're like, oh, that's a good change. Oh, it's a bad change. Mostly people say it's a bad change.
My only problem with Google
Every
Plus
change
is
bad change.
hardly anyone uses it, and there's no APIs, so I never actually look at anything
the
anyone
no
else has ever
APIs
posted.
but whatever.
I never look at anything anyone posts, but I post stuff.
But anyway, people are always, up and down on these different services, switching between them, choosing different ones. I'm just like, whatever, I'll just use fucking everything. I don't care. But Google Plus is doing something that is potentially the awesomest. So they have the Hangouts, right? And the Hangouts have already sort of replaced Skype-ish for the group conference situation with video. And because it lets you do extra stuff like share, watch YouTube videos together and stuff like that. They have an API for Google Hangouts. And you might think, oh, what does this API do? It lets you make apps for Google Hangout, which is genius amazing, because now you can basically start a Hangout and you can write an app, and then basically your app will occupy all that space that the faces aren't occupying on the screen, and everyone can sort of interact in that space with whatever your app does, which happens to be perfect for every board game in the goddamn known universe.
Never mind every role-playing game.
Right. In addition, it's also got the reason people found out about this thing is because someone's making Dominion for it. They showed it off at Google I/O. It looks like fucking Dominion. But really, the real magic here that people don't realize is that a very hard thing to do, a relatively difficult thing to do, is to write a web application that has real-time, synchronized, updated, shared data between the different people, right? So, you think about, pretty much any real-time multiplayer thing, there has to be some sort of shared data that everyone has in common that different people can modify, and all of those data modifications by the different participants is updated to all the other participants, right? The Google Hangout API pretty much makes that just work like brain dead easy. You pretty much say, hey, update the state, and then on the other people there's an event that's like, on the state, when the state has changed, do this. Then change the state, and when the state is, and the other people have when the state is changed, do that. It's just straightforward and really simple. You don't have to code any of this hard stuff because the Google servers just take care of it.
So Scott, here's the thing: are we going to do anything with this, or are we shit talking?
We could make YouTube the game on it.
We probably should make YouTube the game.
Probably.
But will we? That's what I'm asking. Since we're on air now, are we going to?
We're kings of shit talk, right?
You want to move up to Emperor?
Emperor of shit talk.
The Emperor of shit and talk?
Dude, at least I'll be an Emperor. It doesn't get better than that, right? What's better than Emperor? God Emperor? So that's the thing. Above Emperor, all they have left is modifications of Emperor. You can't really get better than Emperor.
If we're going to use that title, I actually prefer Imperator because it sounds so much more
Isn't
epic.
the Imperator someone below the Emperor? Sort of like a Chancellor is below the Chance?
I think they just come from the same root.
I thought it was like you're the emperor and the imperator.
Oh, here we go. Latin word imperator was originally a title roughly equivalent to commander under the Roman Republic. It later became part of the titulature of the Roman emperors as part of their cognomen.
What's cognomen?
All right, let me click on that link.
You don't know.
Cognomen, Latin plural cognominia, together with, was the third name of a citizen of ancient Rome under Roman naming conventions.
So I would be Scott Rubin Cognomen?
No, you would have a cognomen. And the cognomen would be your nickname, like Scott Rubin dicker.
Oh, I get it. Nomin.
Cog. Nom.
I know what the cog is for, but the
nom.
nomin is clearly
Nomin.
name related. All right.
Anyway. We'll see. Let's see if we move up to Emperor because I got some ideas and you got some ideas.
Yeah, but back when in the day, I remember the Facebook apps first appeared, and I was like, "What kind of app would you make on Facebook?" And I didn't really, right? But if you had made a quick move on that, you would have been swinging, right? If you had made like early Facebook apps, so here's your chance to make early Google Plus Hangout apps, which could, make Google Plus. It's a chicken and egg situation, right? And it's like, will this succeed or fail? Who knows? But making apps for it is the chicken to the egg to make it succeed. You could make an app and it could still fail, but making more apps for it helps it decreases the chance of the failing. So goes both ways.
Well, we'll see if we do anything with it.
Yep. I can at least try out Hello World.
But anyway, things of the day. I hope none of you have seen this, but if you watch every TED Talk, then you've probably run into it at some point. This is Marco Tempest doing an amazing little sort of performance art / biography of Nikola Tesla.
Okay.
It is pretty amazing to watch just for the way it's presented. And I don't want to say anything else. It's only 6 minutes long. Just watch it. It's great.
I'll take the Atomic Robo version.
So what do you got?
So everyone probably saw this already. It's a Japanese robot because they seem to make the best robots. And it plays rock, paper, scissors. It's a robot fist. But it has a 100% win rate. Now you're probably thinking, whoa, how can you have a 100% win rate with rock, paper, scissors? I mean, if I can't write a rock, paper, scissors bot that always wins.
Now what I would assume reading something like that, I would
computer
think,
program.
I would think maybe it's using like resonance imaging or like facial stuff to like read the person's mind, which we'll probably have someday.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing works in such a simpler principle.
Yeah. So what this does actually is that is a camera that watches your fist to see what you threw, and then the robot is just so fast that it will always counterattack and win after. So basically, it's cheating. It's like if I look and I see what Rim does, and then he throws scissor, I put out a rock. He throws out a paper, I throw out a scissor. Only it's so fast you can't realize that I'm cheating because I'm like, Superman.
Now
that's what this robot does.
It's questionable as to whether or not it actually is cheating because it's non-detectable. And most people who play paper, rock, scissors.
Let's
I'm
discuss.
just saying, most people who play paper, rock, scissors don't think about it in terms of, is there a race condition? Like, what is the allowable interval between the two hands opening before it's considered a foul and you try again? Because it is impossible to be perfectly synchronized. You have to allow for some manner of deviation.
Yes, but I think what it is if two humans are playing, if the time difference is detectable by humans, then it's too long, right?
So you're saying if a human and a robot play, then if the time difference is detectable by a robot?
Let's discuss the more fundamental question, right? Is it cheating okay if you are not caught?
Well, it depends. You know what? Cheating is only defined as violating the explicit rules of the game.
Right. So let's say.
So what are the rules of the game?
So let's say I play baseball.
Yep.
And I take steroids, which is against the rules.
Yep. So you're cheating.
And I'm so good at it that I'm never ever caught or even suspected.
I would argue that you still cheated.
Okay. So therefore, the robot cheated.
But what is the definition of cheating in tic-tac-toe or paper, rock, scissors? I don't know why it's tic-tac-toe.
You can't cheat at tic-tac-toe.
Yeah, maybe I can. I erase your O and put an X when you're not looking. That might work.
But see, I think there's a situation though, right?
I'm just saying, like, Scott, if you and I play paper, rock, scissors, if you're a fraction behind me, what's the line?
If you could detect that I'm a fraction behind
So
you.
if I detect, every time I lose, I'll say, you were too late.
You couldn't actually detect it.
I would just say I detected it.
You would just say you detected it
How
every
do
time you lose until you win?
I'd foul everything until I won.
4 fouls and you're out. Like baseball.
But
baseball doesn't even have
Who caused
that.
the foul? The person who's late or the person who's early?
Late. If you're late, you're fouled. Early is always better.
So I declare that I saw you being late every time.
If you're gonna be a jerk, then we need video replay.
Yeah, so we need a human judge. This is the
If
problem.
you're gonna be a jerk,
Scott,
we need video replay.
What I'm saying is that this is why soccer needs goddamn video replay.
That's right.
Fuck the World Cup.
That's right. all the cups that don't.
I can't care about soccer anymore
all
because
the FIFAs
because of the officiating situation. Pretend everything I just said applies to soccer.
Fuck something anus.
What?
I don't know. I was trying to turn FIFA because it had I in it to use the word instant.
To use fucking and anuses? What?
Yeah, well, no, I was trying to make an acronym out of it that would be get some fucking instant replay, assholes, because it had F and instant, so FI.
GSFI.
But then I don't know what to do with the F and the other F and the A.
Few men do. So,
that's what she said.
In the meta moment, the book club book is, which we're going to do a show on as soon as we get a chance, because we're both done with the book, but we had to bail out a show. QT84.
Other meta moments, not this weekend, but next weekend, which happens to be July 13, 14, 15, 2012, is ConnectiCon 2012
in Hartford, Connecticut.
You should fucking go if you're close.
We run the panels and workshops department.
Don't come too far to go there, but if you're close, you better be there.
And I will tell you this. We have scheduled more panels, workshops, and events in the 11 panel and workshop rooms we have than any ConnectiCon has ever had.
Which means if you show up, you're going to see even less percentage of the stuff there is to see.
But at the same time,
in the same amount of time.
There is no way. I'm gonna take Saturday. All right, Saturday at 2:00. You could see Storytime with the Vagabonds, Q&A with the Macho Men of video game voice acting, Michelle Lang's, she's a guest of the con too, Jeopardy Stuck, which is a Homestuck panel.
Why did we allow that?
Because Homestuck's popular, and of the 11 that were submitted, I picked the 2 that looked best.
Oh, Jeopardy Stuck.
The D&D We Never Knew, the 36th Chamber, an intro to Kung Fu cinema.
I'm going there.
The Atomic Robo 8-Bit Theater Meet and Greet with Brian Clevenger.
I've been to that
50
twice
years
already.
of anime opening, style and symbolism.
Oh my God.
Star Trek and feminism, and maintaining motivation in writing, and the cutting truth of medieval swords, a lesson in sword fighting with real professionals.
Simultaneously?
Those are all simultaneously around 2:00.
I want to go to like 3 of those.
Yeah, this is a pretty fucking awesome con.
So anyway, also...
And John St. John's going to be there again.
You can go to this con and just play board games. I've said this before. Best board games there are at any convention I've been to ever.
That includes PAX and MagFest.
There's plenty of tables. This is the best game library ever. And by playing games, even if you lose, you get tickets. A very small amount of tickets will get you free games that are worth a lot of money in real dollars. You can pay for your own badge just by playing a lot of board games. ConnectiCon. Okay. PAX Prime is Labor Day. You know the score.
We'll probably be there. PAX Dev is before that. There's a chance I will be there, maybe with Scott.
Yep.
If Scott's not there, it's just because he doesn't want to spend vacation days.
Because I don't have them. All right. In addition, other news. We've been keeping updating the website. You know, the website that not too many people go to, and we keep spreading. You know, our philosophy is, hey, if you don't like coming to our website, fine. We're gonna post our shit on Google, Facebook, Twitter, fucking everywhere. We added something new. An old-fashioned email newsletter. If you are old and busted Luddite, we are emailing out an update about once every other week or so-ish, right? Reminding you of what Geeknights has done in the past couple weeks with some other content in there as well. Email reminder of what we're up to. If you like email reminders, you can go to frontrecruiter.com and subscribe to the email newsletter. The only information you have to type in is your email address. Unsubscribing actually works. MailChimp just takes care of it. And it's so far I wrote one email. People didn't seem to complain. So there you go. If you like email newsletters, sign up. If you don't like email newsletters, then don't sign up.
All right. So UEFI has been in the news a lot, but only nerds care about it. And Cisco's Cloud Connect has been in the news a lot, and only nerds care about it.
Mm-hmm.
These both reek of a really fundamental problem.
All right, well, let's talk about this Cloud Connect, because I looked up the Cloud Connect. It was actually called on the website that I found, the official Cisco website. It was called Connect Cloud.
Yeah, but on the Cisco website, there's another site that said Cisco Cloud Vision.
So what I read was that it's pretty much, we have this problem where you have your home network, but your ISP gives you dynamic IPs and they suck, and you have a router that NATs you, so it's very hard to provide services from your home internet service, internet connection. So what this Cloud Connect theoretically does, or Connect Cloud, is on your router, Linksys router supports Connect Cloud, you can get apps for it, So, for example, you could enable the file transferring app, and then no matter where you were in the world, you would be able to connect to the computers in your house as if it was the cloud, a cloud service, and upload and send files back and forth to your house from anywhere, as if you were hosting cloud things at your house. There are already a lot of equipments that a lot of NASs do this, where they'll use UPnP and a dynamic DNS service to achieve the same effect. So that's what the Cloud Connect thingy does according to the website.
So I'm going to read a statement from one of many articles about this too.
All right.
Last week, a number of Cisco customers began reporting problems with 3 specific Linksys routers. The E2700, E3500, E4500.
Okay.
One day, they attempted to log in, and they were told to log in and register using their Cisco Connect Cloud account information, which they did not have accounts. There was no way to get into their own physical router without registering with Cisco Cloud Connect. Cisco had silently upgraded their firmware, removed any option of downgrading, and forced them to set this up. Cisco now controlled their router. So it gets worse. It gets way worse.
Because they want you to, probably because the way it works is you have to log in to the Cisco server.
Yeah, so once you set
running
up with
the Cloud
this,
Connect,
you log
and
into
then
Cisco, and
that connects you to your router in your
Yes,
house.
they manage your router. You can no longer manage your own router anymore. And there's no way to turn it off once it happens. There's no way to do anything with your router. Suddenly they have power over you, so it gets way worse. I'm going to read a few sentences from the actual terms of service of this thing, which you are now forced to use if you're one of these people.
Did you search other routers' terms of service to see if they say similar things?
No, this isn't router terms of service. This is Cisco Cloud Connect terms of service for your router if you're using it.
All right.
As a condition of your use of the service, you agree that your service, blah, 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 will comply with all applicable laws, blah, blah, blah. You agree to not use or permit the use of the service. 2, invade another's privacy. 2, for obscene, pornographic, or offensive purposes.
So you
3,
can't put
to
any
infringe
porn
another's
on...
rights, including but not limited to intellectual property rights, to email, upload, or otherwise transmit or make available any unauthorized advertising, promotional materials, spam, junk mail, or any form of solicitation.
Because you know how this thing probably works? It's probably not doing just dynamic DNS with an IP hole on your router. What it's probably doing is you're sending stuff to Cisco's cloud servers, and then they're sending it to your router. That's probably how it works. And they don't want you to put that shit on their servers. So, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, now, it looks like after the crazy nerd outcry, they backpedaled and they provided instructions on how to physically reset and then download the old firmware and get your router back. But that's not the end of this, and we're going to see what happens, because once Cisco controls my router and not me, fuck you, Cisco.
I don't know why anybody's buying a Cisco router. Everyone knows.
Yeah, you mean a Linksys router?
Well, I mean, everyone knows that the good Linksys router is the oldest, best one, the WRT54G, and that every other Linksys router, except for that one, is shit.
All right, so if I need to buy a new router today, which one do I buy?
The one I have.
All right. Which one is that?
It's the Netgear WNDR 3700. There's actually slightly newer, better ones.
So are we cool with the world where Cisco, if you buy a Cisco router and you don't know better, you just plug it in and it just starts working, but Cisco actually now controls it and can do stuff to you?
This is why we say every person who uses computers, no matter how, little technological stuff you think you're involved in, you need to fucking learn computers, no matter if you're a plumber or a school teacher or a student. Everyone in the world needs to know computers so that you don't get fucked. Anyone who doesn't learn computers in the modern world, you will be fucked by companies pulling the shenanigans.
So here's another part of the privacy statement if you're using a router that has this. When you use the service,
Cisco can look at all your internets.
Yeah.
And send it to Cisco.
They specifically track your internet history.
Yep. There you go.
And all network traffic.
Yep. See, the thing is, a nerd who was using one of these, right, could be smart enough to VPN and it wouldn't even matter, right? Because if I'd use my little I Predator VPN from my laptop, and I happen to and say a coffee shop is using this, crappy Cisco router, I'll be totally safe.
Yeah, but this would be like buying a router that's a black box that someone else controls and just trusting it.
Well, you see what they want to do in the UK.
Yeah.
They're trying to push a thing where they force ISPs to install black boxes, and those black boxes basically will man in the middle all the SSL Gmails and things like of that nature so that the UK government can spy on pretty much everyone using a UK ISP. And that's why I will not live there.
So... That is one thing.
If I visited there, I would VPN all the time.
But much more dangerous to the health of computers everywhere. This harkens back to like CBD TPA kind of stuff.
Right. So this is thing, and it's been coming for a while, but now it's really on the verge of coming out for real, and it's starting to, the talk about it is greatly increased. It's called
UEFI.
Right. Well, it's really the name for it is SecureBoot,
which is a facet of UEFI.
Well, yeah. So
UEFI supports SecureBoot basically.
Yeah. So SecureBoot is a feature of people don't know. Let's go back to the beginning, right? So PCs have BIOS, right? And Macs use basically the newer, better replacement for BIOS, which is EFI, which is this Intel thing, right? It's basically something firmware something.
I was going to ask because I don't actually
remember.
It's
enhanced firmware interface, maybe? Something like that. Anyway, so it's basically a better BIOS. That's why you can't just easily install like Windows directly on a Mac without like boot camp weirdness because Windows is built for BIOS. It's not built for EFI. So... for Windows 8, right, they're going to finally move to EFI, which is better than BIOS, but has all these features such as restrictions and whatnot, which is why you can't just install Windows on a Mac hardware. So anyway, EFI is no problem, really, right? Everyone can deal with that. The problem is that the Windows 8, they are making a contractual agreement, right? This is Microsoft is forcing this. Microsoft is saying, look, if you want, right, on your computers that you're selling to put a sticker that says Windows 8 compatible, you must not only use UEFI, you have to have it SecureBoot, which is a feature of UEFI, installed and loaded and configured on that hardware. So if a motherboard wants to say we're compatible with Windows 8 in their marketing, Microsoft will not let them do that and will sue them if they say it unless they have UEFI and SecureBoot. So what is SecureBoot? SecureBoot is also known by some people as restricted boot. What this does is, let's say it's sort of what the TiVo does. In fact, it's exactly what the TiVo did, only standardized. So what TiVo did is people were buying TiVos and trying to replace the operating system on there, but they couldn't because the TiVo would refuse to boot unless you had the exact TiVo software, and any other TiVo software wouldn't boot. So SecureBoot is like the same thing. You have some software, your operating system, and there's some key, some security key the operating system has, all right, and that there's a hash of the operating system matches a certain number, so you can't fake it. And when the computer turns on, it looks at the operating system, and it says, is that the operating system I'm supposed to boot? Now, the hardware is doing this, right? This isn't some software you can change. The hardware knows about a particular program, and it will refuse to start any other program when the computer boots.
Now, this is a lot like SSL in terms of how certificates work, in that you have to trust someone to sign stuff, or this is all pointless. So basically, all right, well, we'll trust Microsoft to sign stuff, and the only thing they're going to sign is their own software. And then
you can pay them $100 and they'll do it.
Yeah, so everyone who wants to make malware should pay them $100.
Right, so let's say I buy a motherboard with SecureBoot and a new Intel chip, and I load it up big time. And then I write an assembly program that does some cool graphical demo. And I want to run that assembly program. I want to put it in the master bootloader and just boot it directly on the chips that I have bought. Well, that software is not signed by anyone.
Or what if I want to install a Linux distro that didn't go through the hoops and get a signature?
Right. I roll my own Linux distro with my own kernel and my own bootloader and
There's
everything.
also a problem that you can't have multiple signatures for a piece of software.
Right.
And now this is fine.
So the hardware is going to look at my custom Linux, or it's going to look at my, cool assembly program I wrote that runs directly on the hardware, and it's going to say, that's not one of the programs I'm supposed to be running. I ain't going to boot.
Now, once you can't load arbitrary software on your computer, it's not your computer anymore.
No kidding.
But Microsoft backed off a little
iPad.
bit in that you can self-sign and turn off the mandatory higher-up signature stuff for Windows on Intel.
Mm-hmm.
like x86 architecture.
But ARM.
So on ARM, they're mandating that any hardware that Windows will be certified for that has that sticker cannot allow anything that is not signed by them to run on it under any circumstances.
Or they won't. Well, you can make such hardware and sell it if you want to. No one's going
but
to stop you.
But they won't let you have it be certified.
Exactly. You won't be able to have that sticker that says Windows 8 compatible or whatever. And you can't. And they definitely can't sell it with Windows already installed on it.
Now that's a big deal because if you add a barrier to entry to install non-Microsoft OSs, the vast majority of people are incapable of getting around those barriers.
Exactly. I mean, already people have trouble when they want to install Linux, like telling their computer to boot from USB or CD-ROM instead of, from the hard drive that's already in there, which is what you need to do if you want to actually install Linux for reals, which is why people had things like Wubby, which is kind of crap, but it kind of works. So to make people do even harder work of like signing something with a security key and doing the equivalent of that, messing around in the BIOS or the setup screen, it's going to be even harder to get people to install Linux instead of Windows or something like that, right? Or absolutely impossible because their hardware will not allow it. Now, in theory, the SecureBoot feature, having it on your computer, is not so bad because what you can do, for example, is you could install Linux distribution or Windows, and you could then enable it and say, all right, look, SecureBoot, see what's installed right now? Yeah, I see that. Don't run anything else but that. Okay. And this would be the good, implementation, the theoretical good implementation.
Yeah, the first thing you install. Right.
So then, if, say, some virus or evil hacker or something came around and modified your operating system, your computer would say, hey, I'm not booting. In fact, I'm not even running anymore. And you would bet very well, you would know immediately, oh, someone hacked and screwed with my operating system. I better reflash that shit, reinstall that part, the bootloading part, so that it's clean again. And you would just do that. And you would be all set. And that would be SecureBoot. The problem is the restricted SecureBoot, the evil implementation, the user is unable to tell the motherboard or the CPU that, no, you should trust this. It's the people telling the computer what to trust are companies who make operating systems and not the person who owns that computer. I should be able to tell my computer, trust this Linux, trust that Linux, trust this. I want to run DOS, what's it called? FreeDOS. Trust this FreeDOS. It's cool. But you can't do that the way they're doing things.
Now, it's, like Ubuntu and Red Hat are both like working and getting around this, and they're doing deals with Microsoft to make it easy for now. Mm-hmm. But the pragmatic solution right now is not the thing that bothers me. What bothers me is that we as technologists cannot tolerate going down this road at all, because I'm not making the slippery slope argument.
This is not a slippery slope. This is the horrible thing at the bottom. We don't need to slide anywhere. Because SecureBoot itself is bad.
If we tolerate an implementation like this is the kind of stuff like the CBD TPA that a lot of people in our government would really like to have.
Yep.
Remember the CBD TPA? That was a decade ago. You know how hard we had to fight to get that shot down?
What'll happen here if this goes, full on, if no one makes motherboards that don't have this anymore, is you'll basically have to buy, as soon as it comes out, the last motherboard CPU combination that doesn't have this bullshit.
Funny, I remember.
When are you going to be able to upgrade? Never.
I remember in 2002, give or take, posting or reading. I don't remember. I'm an old man, but that exact argument was made in 2002 because if the CBD TPA had passed, we would have all had to buy the last free hardware.
Yep.
And then from there forth, somehow we would have had to make do. And there would have been an underground in illegal technology.
Or, well, not necessarily illegal, right?
Well, in that case, it would have been illegal.
At least in this case, it's not illegal technology. It's simply not Microsoft-certified technology. So
yes,
I would hope
now
that there would be some manufacturer of hardware that would continue to make non-certified stuff, and we could get it on Newegg.
Governments of the world, not to sound paranoid, have a vested interest. The idea of trusted computing flies pretty much directly in the face of
free computing,
what has made technology great and open communication to the world forever. The computer, the idea that we can have a generic computing thing, a machine that does computations, that can do any kind of computation, has probably revolutionized mankind more than anything else we've ever done in our entire history.
And the road we're going down now, iPad, iPod, all Mac, everything, is a road where you can buy machines that are theoretically capable of computing anything, but forces beyond your control, companies and governments, are going to design that hardware in such a way that they will decide what computations those things can perform and what they cannot. And it might even get so if they put it in the hardware and there is no hardware company on Earth that cooperates, it may get to the point where even nerds won't be able to compute whatever they want to compute.
Now, it's fine if we have divergent paths. Like, an iPad that's really locked down is fine in an ecosystem
It's
where
okay for it to exist. It just can't be the only thing that
exactly in
exists.
an ecosystem where there are also free computers. But without free access to your own hardware to do whatever you want with, short of, if I fill it with C4 and blow it up, well, that's a bomb. That's not a computer.
Right.
But the fact that computing devices are open and free and that I can type whatever the fuck I want into that thing is probably one of the most important things humans can do right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because ideas and memes are the only way to fight things that we perceive as being bad in the world.
So there's an additional issue here, right, which is the GPL v3. Now, some people are using the GPL v3 and some aren't. But in fact, what happened is because of the TiVo, which I already explained, the GPL v3 in most of its uses has clauses specifically not allowing the TiVo trick of, only allowing signed whatevers. So in fact, what Ubuntu is doing to get around this problem, because, right, part of what they are doing is not using Grub 2 as their bootloader anymore because that would violate the GPL v3 for them to do what they're doing to get around the SecureBoot. So they're actually switching to an Intel bootloader for the later Ubuntu versions that has a more open license than the GPL v3. Well, so it's going to be really weird to see what happens because suddenly you might get, Linux itself is GPL v2, so it's still cool. But we might get into situations coming up where, you've got a new computer, you've managed to get around SecureBoot to install the OS you want, but no GPL v3 software can be run on your computer unless without violating the GPL v3. So it's gonna get shaky, real shaky.
Well, that's a separate problem of free as in beer, free as in speech,
right?
And
Like
free as in GNU.
Yeah, but there is stuff that is free as in GNU, and there might be some divergence and some troubles, and you can't get a certain program to run.
Where I want pragmatism to prevail in that I am less concerned about binary blob like NVIDIA drivers than I am about hardware restrictions.
Mm-hmm. And then there's always the concern we bring up all the time, which is like, even if we come out of this okay and nerds can still buy open motherboards and CPUs on Newegg, great. We're still in that situation where
flashback.
We
to a
told
world.
you so 100 times.
Flashback to a world
nerds have freedom and no one else does.
Where the CBD TPA passes. That would have meant that if I made a mashup of My Little Pony, normal people could not watch it. Hardware could not play media at the hardware level unless that media was signed by government bodies saying it was legit and not pirated. Think about that for a minute. Think about what that would do to free speech. Hardware restrictions like this are basically attempts at that.
Yep. And if you look at something like the iPad, you can totally get there.
But I'm
very,
fine.
very
Like we
easily.
said, we're fine with the iPad being there. But imagine a world where iPad is the only way to compute.
And it's not even...
You can't write an app unless the government says it's okay to write an app.
Right?
Imagine that.
And it's not... And the thing is, even take the government out of it, right? If we merely get to the point where consumers like it the most, so it becomes the most popular, right? Then even if governments aren't forcing you to do that and all the nerds have open computers where they can do whatever they want, normal people won't have them. So if you make open media, right, and Apple or some corporate gatekeeper doesn't like you can't get it spread out there because everyone is using these lockdown things, even though they don't have to.
So
here's
here's a nice side argument. As long as we have real open computing platforms, then the nerds who care can use those platforms to circumvent the controls on other platforms.
But we still need the open platform to be the most popular platform, even if
I don't know if that's feasible in the modern era.
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem, is that even if governments don't force to close, even if you're not forcing to close
you're arguing that Huxley is the dystopia as opposed to Orwell.
If the closedness, right, of iPad and, secure boot systems become the most popular, most widely spread systems, then the government doesn't have to step in and you to get the same effect. And basically where only nerds are living free and everyone else is living locked down.
I still
by
think that's
choice, and they wouldn't choose to leave either.
I still think it's a separate argument because in this case, this hardware lockdown is much more immediate in effect and harder to route around.
Mm-hmm.
At least if it's just software like lockdown platforms, then the fact that the open platforms can be ubiquitous, even if they're the minority, it's sort of a checks and balances where even if iPads are most popular, if someone does something on the open platform that non-nerds see and go, hey, how come I can't do that? It puts pressure on the lockdown platform to allow analogous functionality.
I could see in like a few years, right, when Windows 7 isn't really any good anymore, and Windows 8 and 9 or whatever, and OS X are the only other choices, going back to full-on Linux. We're seeing Steam come out on Linux. I bet Valve, this is at least, they're at least thinking about this a little tiny fraction of a bit. Of what the future
that's it.
could hold.
That's why as long as we can keep open access to hardware, then it'll always be a pendulum. Because whenever government or corporate intrusion gets too high and starts restricting what people actually want to do with their technology, those people will go to their nerd friends and say, hey, how come I can't do all those things
Because you
do?
bought an iPad or a Windows 8 computer, dumbass. That's
And
why.
There have been periods in my life, I've been using computers for a long time. We're old now. We've been doing Geeknights since 2005. And there have been eras where there have been big shifts in normal-ish people toward Linux because they'd say, hey, I want to do X and Y, and they couldn't really do that on their more closed platforms.
Yep.
If the iPad model gets too closed and nerds continue to do cool things, there will always be this pushback on the closed platforms.
But how will normal people know about the cool things nerds do?
Because nerds never shut the fuck up.
But they can't see us on the internet because they're all locked down.
They can see us on the internet because...
At least for now, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's the for now. That's why I'm not making
this
the slippery
now
slope
we're getting
argument
slippery
yet.
slope. Yeah.
That's why, as much as we complain about this stuff, the CBD TPA was literally the most egregious attempt at this ever.
So anyway, here's my pragmatic strategy for the near future, right? Number one, if this becomes so prevalent that like every motherboard has it and you can't build, I'm planning to build a computer like 2-3 years away, but I might
Wow, you're really going to hold out 2 or 3 years?
My computer's just fine.
I guess you're not editing video.
If I have to, I'll just buy the last great computer that doesn't have this bullshit. If there's still like some motherboard companies that are still producing good, and CPU companies still making computers that don't have the bullshit or have ways around it, that they say, the motherboard we're selling a Newegg doesn't need to say Windows 8 compatible on the box, then we're pretty good, right? We can just buy those motherboards. We'll be all set. If it gets bad and there isn't a motherboard that's like that or a CPU that's like that, then I'm going to start a Kickstarter to get enough monies to get like Asus or someone to make a motherboard like that.
Yeah, and SecureBoot will make sure that your web browser can't go to that Kickstarter.
I don't think SecureBoot, at least for now. Slippery slope is just operating systems.
Yeah,
so it's really just an issue.
And other than ARM, it is, and actually even with ARM in certain situations, it is circumventable, but it pushes normal consumers. It adds a barrier to them.
It even makes it
stuff.
hard. You couldn't even run Windows XP on such a computer.
Yeah.
Or Windows 7 even, right? Unless maybe they sign that. But
and the thing is,
it would be hard to run.
Don't get us wrong.
Something that wasn't
the
Windows
idea
7.
of a secure platform that I can enable is awesome. If I'm running a company that has really
just
secure
if
stuff,
you give me the feature and let me choose, what the key is.
If I run the IT of a small company that has like sensitive financial information, everyone gets a laptop with an encrypted hard drive and a crazy secure boot.
Yep.
Bam.
Done.
But you can't force that
I have
on
to be the
people.
one to put the key in the secure boot. I can't have a lock on my house or someone else decides what the lock looks like and holds all the keys. I can't open my house unless Microsoft opens it for me.
It's the same fundamental problem with self-signed SSL. It's why if you want to use SSL and anyone's using it other than you pretty much have to pay one of the gatekeepers for
It'd
something.
be like if you mortgaged a house and every time you wanted to go in or out, the bank came to open and close the door and lock it for you. And if you fucked up on the mortgage payment, they would just lock you out.
And if it's like Cisco's cloud thing, if they find porn in your house, then they shut your house down.
Yeah. All right.
So rabble about this stuff, kids.
Rabble.
Rabble, sign the EFF whatevers.
SecureBoot, whatever they want to call it, restricted boot, UEFI.
If you don't understand anything we said, just remember this. UEFI is a UFIA. This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night. When did you think of that?
I've actually thought about that all day.
All right.
I was waiting for tonight to say that at the end of the episode.
There you go.